Hey.
Hey, are we live? We're live. Nice. Welcome, everybody, to the first new comic book day book club. This is so exciting. It's been
Oh,
like constant
it's not
excitement
gonna
waiting for
work.
this day to happen. White Will and I have been banding this around for it feels like a couple of weeks now, just thinking about how to do this and how this would work. And it looks like we've already got 7 people in here. So that's super awesome. So
That's
again,
like 6 more
hi,
than I thought was gonna be here.
yeah. And you all know me because this is obviously my channel. So you hopefully know me. I am John, and this is John's Comics. And I'd like to introduce the man who came up with this idea and is nice enough to let me host our first ever New Comic Book Day book club. But here's Mr. Alec White Whale Comics.
Hey guys, this is Alec, White Whale Comics. Yeah, so basically the impetus of this idea was that I wanted to do something that was, you know, exactly what Tony Sanders is saying right now, supporting the community. So I wanted to do a group live chat, but do something that could really interact with the chat and bring them into the experience. So came up with this idea that we could all read the same book and chat about it together. Obviously, John and I are going to try to lead the chat as we are the ones on camera, but we're going to grab your comments from the chat and bounce them off each other as well. So if anyone has read Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider #1 today, yeah, we'll see what you guys think as well, because I've got some thoughts.
Yeah, so this is our first one, and there was a lot of thinking going on for Alec and I as far as what that first book would be, because it seems like no matter what you pick, it'll probably never live up to the idea of what this chat is and what this sort of community activity could really be. But we obviously wanted to start with a few sort of number ones, these first issues in a storyline or whatever, and so we looked at this book and felt like this would be a good fit for us. For those that don't know the character, I really did not like this character and kind of dismissed her as what I would say is a B-list or secondary character. And then my LCS owner kind of let me know like that she's really popular. You should really take a glance. And I snagged a few issues, some of the ones that are hanging up here. I really got into her alternate universe, because that's kind of the gimmick, if you will, of her character, is this alternate universe where she's the one that gets bit by the spider and all that kind of stuff. I really liked the way they used Peter Parker, the way they used Matt Murdock and the Kingpin in that world. I felt like it was a really fun way to look at those classic characters in a new way, and I got into it. So I was kind of excited to pick this issue up, if only because I wanted to see that world explored the same way I'm enjoying like Old Man Hawkeye exploring that Old Man Logan world a little more, because I feel like Marvel ruined for me Old Man Logan by bringing him into the current storyline. It kind of just robbed that character of what was really interesting about him. And I was worried maybe something similar might happen with this character here. So that's why I was excited to choose this character. I will say, some of the problems that I feel like the character has are still evident here, as far as there's a gimmicky quality to that character, and with so many alternate futures and histories and pasts and things, it can ask a lot of a reader. And that was the one thing I was worried about most with this story and this character, was how many other books do I have to read to be able to follow this? I don't know how you felt about it, Alec.
Yeah, so I'm certainly familiar with the character, but I don't read her series regularly, and that is kind of my first. Hey TJ, what's up? My first kind of complaint about this book was that it did not service new readers at all. Like I know some about her, but like there were parts where she mentioned like, oh, I lost my watch, and it didn't explain what that meant. Like I got in context what it was, but like for a #1, I felt like it was way off base as far as like drawing in new readers to her character.
Yeah, And when it came to like, it was sort of like like there's elements that were the opposite of like Fantastic Four #1, the new, if anybody's read that one, because that one, I felt like the new Fantastic Four, it really had only like catch you up stuff. It didn't have anything new to add, you know, whereas this one was sort of the opposite. It was sort of like throwing all the old stuff out and just diving right into a new story and expecting you to sort of like know all of this other stuff, especially for me, the Spider-Geddon stuff, that they're expecting you to have read Spider-Geddon 1 and 2 and 0 and all these other things that like it wasn't able to kind of stand on its own 2 feet in that way.
Yeah, it looks like Comic Books NYC is agreeing. It says, I haven't read any of the other Spider-Gwen or Spider-Geddon, so behind, so it was a little off contextually for me too. And there was like one part specifically where I was like, oh, clearly this is in reference to something that's happening in Spider-Geddon. And like there was, they were like, oh, you read this, right? Because you're a Spider-Man fan, you're a Spider-Verse fan. So
yeah. And for me, It read a little of her other stuff, but I haven't read all of it. And I've read Spider-Geddon 0 and 1, but I hadn't read 2 because it was just released today, and I got tired of Spider-Geddon. I didn't care for it. So that I don't want to hate on it because there was definitely parts I liked. Specifically, the humor of her reminds me of like the young Spider-Man stuff I liked when I was a kid, the sarcastic kind of silliness of Peter. And I think they've done a good job here and in some of these older issues of kind of giving her, this sort of young kid kind of mentality where it's like, I'm thinking about my next burger. I'm thinking about, what I've got to get done tonight or tomorrow. It's not always just like, 4 all day long. And I'm thinking about saving Asgard all day long. Like she's like living a life, which is the stuff I love most about Peter Parker. And I like most about these other Spider-Gwen stories.
Yeah. I felt like it was written for teens, but like in kind of a dumbed down way, not in like a appealing to them way, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like there were parts of it that just seemed like not good. I have some examples that I took screenshots of. I want to see if this works.
Sure. And I'll say as far as like showing things and not really explaining it, the one that really bugged me was showing the like Gwenum, like the spider, the symbiote. There's like one shot.
I thought that was going somewhere, and it didn't.
I was like, wait, what is this? Because I didn't read the Gwenum storyline, so I don't know, like, is it still a part of her? Did she get rid of it? Is there another villain somewhere with it?
Yeah. Comic Books NYC says the battle scene is pretty drawn out and not much happened. I would agree with that.
And a couple of people commented that it's short. Like you read it,
it's a
flies by.
I messaged you earlier and you said, "Oh, I'm going to be tight on time to read it." I was like, "Yeah, don't worry, you got plenty of time." So if I do this, is this going to work?
Yeah, I thought that was a good drawing. That was a good splash.
Yeah. So this, like, I feel like the art was a little inconsistent because this page looked great.
Yeah.
Oh, good. It is up there. But then there were other things that like really bugged me. So like, not to plug my own videos, but in my video about Darwin Cook, I talk about crossing the line. Or no, that was my Mike Mignola one. And clearly here you can see Gwen here on the left of Harry. And then she hugs him from the right. So she like ran all the way around him. Doesn't. So that bugged me. This, like, there was no establishing shot here as far as, oh, by the way, there's going to be spoilers for this book. That probably goes without saying.
That's kind of the point. You don't show up to the book club and get mad at us for spoiling it. That's just not fair.
Comics with Bueller, what's up? Thanks for joining.
Yeah, Bueller, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, Thomas Churchill agrees. It was a quick read. I was a little lost with the possible symbiote. Um, so this, like stuff like this, and then uh, where does she get these change of clothes? She doesn't have a backpack.
Yeah, Spidey always had to make a backpack out of the webs,
And
right?
she has a backpack and other things. Like there's pictures of her with, you know, the drumsticks hanging out of the backpack, and so it's like a thing for her, but I don't know why. And then so this was I did not understand this at all. She's fighting her, and then she says, "Oh, good, you can be reasonable." Like in reference to what? And then says, "I take it back. You're not invited to my Halloween party." That is also like a quip that is not referenced anywhere. Um, and then this page is just insane to me. Like you never see her go on the bottom of the thing. So
No.
when she says,
Yeah. And I felt that fight was just really confusing. It seemed like it was jump cutted. And maybe that was the purpose. Like maybe they wanted it to feel like back and forth, like it's over here and it's over there, but it didn't translate to the reader. It was very confusing.
right. Oh, I'm back. Yeah, and like yeah, that person came out of nowhere with no motivation, and yeah, it was really strange. And then for me, the end was a real letdown. I feel like that could have been a great payoff, like at the end of issue 3 or 4, maybe, you know, but it didn't do anything for me because it was just like, oh yeah, so she revealed herself. Like if there was a build up where they, you know, kind of, yeah, comic books NYC, the Laughing Goblin Girl did nothing, said Kachong. Comics books NYC, I didn't understand the battle sequence at all. Yeah, it was not drawn in a way that was easily followable.
Yeah. And I felt like when it got to the end, the reveal at the end, and I don't know how I feel about sharing it. It doesn't really matter to me one way or the other, but you have she moves to a new, so she comes from an alternate universe, but she goes to a third, like a new alternate universe.
Right.
And story wise, it's kind of all over the place that way. So then you have, you know, in her universe, Peter Parker's dead. In our universe, Peter's alive and she's dead. And then she goes to this other universe, and apparently now they're both alive. But like, by that point, you have so many other reveals of what this alternate world is. It's kind of like the third punch, and by that point, we're dizzy from all the other ones. We're not really taking in the impact of it.
JD's asking who wrote it. I'm looking that up right now.
It's actually it's a friend of Tom, Comic Tom.
Oh, really?
And I can't remember her name. She did a DC
Shannon
book
McGuire.
long ago. Yeah, Shannon McGuire. And there's parts of it, again, I like alternate timeline stuff. It's that sort of DC Elseworlds thing, and I really dig that kind of thing. And I feel like they just, and maybe it's just an issue 1 thing, they've just touched on what will become significant in 2s and 3s and 4s from later on. But for right now, it was just like jumping in an ice cold water, and you're just reacting to the frigid water of it all. I am a Peter Porker Spider-Ham fan. I think he's funny. Like he cracks me up
for sure.
And I loved that. Like she sees him out the window, right? Where is it? Here, like way off in the distance.
Yeah, I noticed
spots
that.
him.
And I didn't know at first if that was going to be like like an Easter egg.
Yeah. And then she runs out to him. But it took me I got surprised by it because I was reading maybe too quickly that first time through. And I'm like, why is she leaving all of a sudden? And then it was because it was so tiny in that back frame. And I was kind of just reading the dialogue between the two of them. And I missed it. It could have been me as a bad reader at that point. So that bit totally threw me.
Yeah. Like I said, there was no establishing shot there. So that really, if you didn't notice that tiny thing in the background, it was weird.
They used that as their establishing shot.
Comic Books NYC says he enjoyed the reveal at the end, but says you are right. You could have built up better and paid off would have been much sweeter. And Thomas Churchill says, great call. Build up to her identity would have worked better later in the story arc. Christopher Lopez made a great point. I think it really illustrates the disconnect between writer and artist at major publishers. One writes a script that could be good, and bad artwork makes it disjointed. I wouldn't even say the artwork was bad, but I think you make a good point that when you say the disconnect, because it doesn't feel like they were working together. It feels like someone was handed a script and they just drew what was in the script, and there was no discussion about what the intent was.
Well, and you often talk in your videos about, when it comes to art, about that sort of cinematic nature of like image to image, what is the story and how is it progressing? I think you did a great in the Mignola one where you're talking about all the like silent frames of like the bird and the tree and then Hellboy's face. In this case, it didn't feel like it was progressing. It felt real choppy, panel to panel to me.
Yeah.
And
no,
I went to film school, but I didn't understand art the same way you do, because you in your videos present, I go to story and you go to this whole, you find story in each drawing the way that I've never done. It's amazing.
Well, I went to art school, so it makes sense. Making use of my degree somehow.
Right.
So, I mean, overall, I would say I did not really enjoy the book.
And that comes to like the end of like this debate section or this discussion section, which is we try to decide for each of us, is this going to be a pull, like something you add to your pull, or is this going to be a skip? And there's no middle ground. I didn't really want it to be like a thing where you could hem and haw about like, well, I like this, I like that. Will you add that to your pull, or will you skip it next time there's another issue coming around? So it sounds like, Alec, you're saying it's a skip.
Yeah, no, I will not be picking up issue 2.
Pretty much there as well. I don't know if I'm going to pull this one. I mean, I am curious to see how I do love alternate timelines, and so I'm trying not to hem and haw on this one, because I do want to know what is this ghost, or what is this ghost spider how is she gonna react into the seeing Peter Parker and this other villain. It's gonna be, it might even come down for me to the cover. It's not gonna be on my pull, I'll tell you that. I'm not gonna have my LCS pull it for me. Hey, but if they have a sweet variant, it might just draw me in.
No hemming and hawing, John.
No, it's not on my pull. It will not be on my pull.
So Tony asked no review on number 2. Not for me, unless you want to buy it and give me the digital code. I'll give you a review of it. But then a lot of people are saying skip, got to go skip. I would use it as toilet paper. Wow.
Ooh, wow.
Hulk nuts coming in with the death blows. I'll probably give 2 a second chance. Skip for me physically, but curiously digitally to have the art germ cover. But that's about it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, if they had an art germ for the second issue, I would probably guarantee that I would grab it, but I won't tell my shop to pull it for me. That's for sure.
In hindsight, and I wouldn't have known this, but I would have picked this to review this week. This is a new David Lapham book, which he did Stray Bullets, if anyone read that back in the day. I'm not familiar with this publisher, Black Crown. But I really enjoyed this read. It was weird and narratively confusing, but like intentionally, I think. But pretty cool book. So that's my recommendation for the week. I know we didn't discuss doing that, but I just threw it out there.
No, I didn't.
I would rather chew glass, Hulk Nut says. Jeez. Hulk Nuts, you really did not enjoy this book.
Hulk Nuts is awesome. So yeah, for me, I didn't grab anything else off the rack except for that this week. There was not a lot of books that I was looking forward to. I ended up grabbing some back issues, but I didn't grab anything else. So I'll have to look for that Lodger next time.
Yeah, Christopher Lopez says Lodger was awesome. Fern82 says I heard it was great. Tony says it's supposed to be a good read. So
well, this brings us to the second part of these book clubs. We wanted to have sort of 2 segments. One was the book, and then the other would be a debate topic. And the one that you came up with, Alec, involved A-list versus B-list characters. And I'll try to sum it up the best I can, but you can feel free to reiterate for me because you'll go first if you'd like. The topic was this, folks. How do you determine if a character is an A-list or a B-list character, right? What qualifies a character to be A-list or B-list? Because I've heard a lot of people call Spider-Gwen a B-list character. And clearly I think Hulknuts is going to agree on that one. But what for you qualifies a character to be an A-list versus a B-list character? Hero or villain, it doesn't matter. So Alec, did I explain that well enough?
Yeah, totally. I mean, obviously, any character that's like a movie, Iron Man, Hulk, Wolverine, like those are clearly A-list. But in the world of the comic universe, you know, they're clearly pushing characters like Spider-Gwen and Miss Marvel. And at what point do they become like A-list characters within the universe? Christopher Lopez says a classic character or new that aren't major sellers, be everyone else. And Tony Sanders says Black Panther was a B-list and the movie turned him into an A-list. Exactly. So, but what is that line for you? And for me, it's just like how significant they are in the universe, I guess. So even if a book is selling really well, if they're not involved in like major events and stuff like that, they're still, for me, like a B-list character.
That's awesome. I didn't even think about it that way. Yeah, I think people were talking about carrying a series. I saw that that JD said that, and it made me think the two elements that I came up with that seem to determine an A-list versus a B-list. Obviously, JD hit popularity for me. I think a character cannot be unpopular and be an A-list character. I think that would never work. And then the other one that I felt was important was a longevity, right? Yeah. A breadth of time. You know, a brand new character is going to struggle to be an A-list character without some measure of time involved. And we're probably talking mathematically about some kind of diagonal line, right? Where you're talking about popularity versus longevity. And the longer a character is around and the longer they're popular, then the more likely they would become an A-list character. And somebody, when you talk about like a Spider-Gwen, she might be really popular right now, but the short longevity that she's had hasn't given her the chance to rise above that.
Hulknut says B-listers are one pump chumps. And Steve Waterman says A-list are the stars of a universe, which that I kind of agree with. But like you look at over the years, they've put some characters like on the Avengers, which should be the stars of your universe, right? That are, I would still consider B-list characters.
Right.
Tony Sanders says best example, Deadpool, who I guess like I would consider an A-list character now, but was it before or after the movies when he became like A-list? Because you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think because of his popularity being so intense for so long, like I think it'd be hard to deny him that status. But there's also an element of opinion involved, I think, as well, because if you strongly dislike a character, in your mind, they're going to really not make a dent in that. You can be as objective as possible, but like I'm a Deadpool hater. Like I really don't like that character. I think he's a great background side character. He's a perfect B-list, like bring him into an X-Force issue and you might get some chuckles out of like him as a comedic relief. But for me, I would not put him on the same level as an Iron Man, but obviously I'm in the minority on that opinion.
Sure. I mean, like when you do something like a Deadpool month and he's on the cover of every single cover, But I mean, they did a Cosmic Ghost Rider month, and I wouldn't consider him an A-list character, even though that book is like top 5 right now for me.
Yeah, and it's probably because of the lack of longevity there. You know, given enough time, it's possible. And I saw that that Waterman mentioned Moon Knight as a great example of a B-list character who's been around, has an incredible longevity, but his popularity has never been on the level of a Spider-Man or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. Tony says Moon Knight needs a Netflix series. That would be great.
Yeah.
Christopher
Throw
Lopez.
that iron fist to the curb and bring me some Moon Knight.
Yeah. Christopher Lopez says Deadpool is boring in his books and he's not a major player in anything Universal. Right. So that kind of goes against what I was saying earlier. And Deadpool is great in small doses. So it seems like people are kind of agreeing with you. But the other thing you said about like personal opinion, like I love Gambit. I realize he's a B-list character. Like I would never consider him an A-list character, even though, you know, he's top X-Men for me personally. But like, objectively, I know that he's not an A-lister.
Yeah, and I think you can kind of know in your heart that you want them. You want the world to recognize them as this A-list character, but they just are not there yet. And like I read. Just for giggles, I was on my Marvel Unlimited and I was reading stuff I had missed, and I read Hawkeye versus Deadpool, or a Deadpool versus Hawkeye. I don't remember what they called it, and it was a laugh riot. Like I thought it was hysterically funny, and the covers were really silly, but like the story inside was just really, really funny. The Hawkeye was given a chance to be the straight man, and Deadpool was the comic relief, and it worked for me for 4 issues.
Sure,
but the character, you know, as the lead, it just never functioned for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a big Deadpool guy either.
And given a movie, Gambit could, you know, get the rise in popularity to make him more mainstream. Although I don't know that a Channing Tatum starring Gambit movie is going to be working for that.
Yeah, Tony Sanders said the same thing. Gambit movie would change his status. That's the truth, Tony Sanders. Thomas Churchill said. Yeah, I mean, obviously, a movie's going to change the status of any character. Especially if it's success. You know, Catwoman movie didn't do any favors for that character back in the day, or you know, Ben Affleck did Daredevil. I think actually set him back, which is why you totally get Daredevil issues so cheap. But yeah, Gambit, I always loved him because Doctor Strange solo fell hard of the way. The Gambit arcs were better. Yeah. How was the Black Metal What If issue? It was a real stinker. Comic books.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thoroughly disappointed with it. And I mean, I'm sure I set my hopes too high, but
so going forward, one of the things that Alec really wanted to do was to have a bit of a panel on these sessions, meaning 3, maybe 4 people and more discussion from the community. So we've been talking to a few people, and hopefully next time we do one of these, we bring in another person to keep bouncing off of. I know it's Halloween next week, and it's going to be a little tricky with, you know, I got kids, and it's just, I understand that like schedules and people ringing your doorbell every few seconds, or you're trying to do a live stream. I know it's not totally practical, but we're going to work to try to see how we can make that happen next week. So keep your notices on, or hit the subscribe bells and the notice bells for White Whales Comics and for myself. We will be on his channel next time, so just be watchful of how that works on his channel and when that'll be happening. But it should be near enough to this same time that week as well. And we're going to tell you what book right now to pick up next time. And Alec, you want to do that?
Yeah, for sure. It's another really slim week next week. I think it's the 5th week of the month, which is historically always a slow week for books. So we had some slim pickings. We are leaning towards Justice League Aquaman Drowned Earth, which I don't really know anything about. but I think it's like a new big event. We didn't really discuss this earlier, but the only other option I saw just a few minutes ago was Hex Wives #1's new Vertigo book, which might be Halloweeny, but John's shaking his head.
No, I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
It's got a B cover with a Jenny Frison variant, which people
now
love.
You're talking though. Now you're talking.
So I don't know. Do we want? I know this is kind of like off the cuff, but do we want to maybe put it to a vote in the chat?
Yeah, folks. So you heard it. We had looked at 2 options for the week. It's that 5th week of the month is always a brutal one. So anybody interested? We were thinking Aquaman #1, a new storyline, but then there's what is it called again? Which?
So it is called Hex Wives #1. It's a Vertigo title, or Justice League Aquaman Drowned Earth #1, which is the ocean gods with a grudge against Aquaman and Wonder Woman invade Earth. An alien army flood the globe. Batman, Superman. So it seems like a big universe thing.
Awesome. So it looks like Hulk Nuts is interested in the Aquaman. Comic Books NYC says Hex Wives. I'm good either way. Both are on your pull list. But Bake the Snake is ready. He's ready either way. Looks like Hex, Aquaman, Hex. I agree, Tony Sanders. I know so little about Aquaman that it's hard on me. But it looks like a lot of people are saying Hex Wives. I think that the tide has swung that way.
Yeah, I didn't mean to throw a curveball into things.
No.
I know we kind of had Aquaman on the brain, but
it's gonna be new to me, whatever it is. I mean, I don't read Aquaman, and this is a whole new book. Nobody's read this storyline before. Ooh, I see a couple people shouting out Old Man Logan's final issue is next week.
Yeah. So that's another question that we could have. So, we said at the beginning of this that, we kind of wanted to do some first issues just to be more inclusive for people so that everyone could jump on. But if there's going to be interest in something like Old Man Logan 50 or, a random issue #5 of something, just to say like, hey, here's how this story's going. My concern is that with spoilers and stuff like that would be might cause some issues, but we'll see. I mean, this is gonna be a work in progress. We're gonna kind of learn as we go and see what everyone wants, because like I said, this is a community project. So this we're hosting it, but it's for all of us. So
let's see here. But
it looks like Hex Wives is
looks like Hex Wives is the winner, I would say. So let's just plan for that. Let's put Hex Wives on your pull list for next week, or grab one off the shelves. You said Vertigo, yeah?
Yes, a Vertigo book.
So it's a Vertigo book. Join us for a new indie book, issue 1. We'll break that down. We will be on White Whale Comics' channel next week for Happy Halloween. It's the perfect Halloween book too. We got a book that'll fit that perfectly. And then we'll pick next week's book the week after. Sorry, the book for the week after next
week. Before we go, I do want to give a shout out to a buddy of mine who has a podcast. It's called First Issue Club. It's based out of Kansas City, and I was just chatting with him right before we went live. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves or anything, but we might work out some sort of crossover thing where
that sounds great.
If they're reviewing the same book we're reviewing, we can both talk about it. But
totally,
it's a really great podcast. It's super humorous. They review usually 3 #1s each week, and it's fairly spoiler free, but it's a lot of fun. So if you enjoyed this and want more first issue stuff, check out First Issue Club podcast you can get it on iTunes and probably somewhere else.
And Darwin is saying it's kind of fun to like start with a #1 and then do a run that might be tight. And I agree with that. But the danger with that, Darwin, is with a number one, it's a total gamble, and you just don't know what you're getting. And we wanted to make sure that the group and the community would have to be so interested in that book for us to follow with the second issue.
Yeah.
We weren't just going to go with something just to go with it. We wanted to look week by week and pick that book. And then that, if the next week comes around, and if a month later Ghost Spider 2 is coming out and nobody has anything better than that, Hulk Nuts might have to go and shoot glass. I think he might be out of luck.
At the same time, I think, you know, if we read something that blows everyone's mind away, like if Hexwives just like knocks everyone's socks off and everyone's like 10 out of 10, maybe that's a reason to jump into it again next time. But, or at least like maybe not do it as our featured book, but kind of just like at least give an update, like do a quick like, hey, read issue 2, still holds up, or like it's kind of didn't live up to number 1 or something like that. But
yeah, I totally agree. Oh, and then we wanted to take a second. We're down to the last few minutes that we wanted to try to do this, but I wanted to give everybody a chance to hear. If you're joining us on our panel, the last little bits you can then let us know whatever you're going to be doing on your channel upcoming in the next few days or the next week. I have a few unboxings that I'm going to have to do because I'm part of the Comic Tom Mail Club, and so my mail call should be coming here in the next few days. I'm in the second group. So I'm going to do a live unboxing of that. I won a contest. I very rarely win a contest, and I think I saw RB3 was in here earlier. But I've won 2 of that guy's contests. I feel like I'm just robbing him blind, and I probably shouldn't enter this next one he's doing right now. I don't think it's really fair anymore. So I've got a bunch of things to unbox. So I'm definitely doing that. I've got Saturday morning comics with the girls this Saturday where we're phasing out soccer, so we're able to do that more easily. And then I'm trying to do an edited piece with Kate on Batman Year 1. So we'll see if I traumatize my my soon-to-be 11-year-old with Frank Miller. What about you, Alec? What are you doing?
And the great David Mazzucchelli, who, not to name drop or humble brag, but was my professor in college.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where I get a lot of my translated knowledge to my artist review series comes directly from David Mazzucchelli. So
well, that Year 1 is like defining my collecting. I mean, I've always been passionate about that.
It's all time. Yeah, if I ever get my CBCS order in, I got 10 books out to them right now. I'll be doing an unboxing of that. In the meantime, I'm going to be doing some more artist series. So if anyone has any suggestions for artists they would like to see, you can DM me on Instagram at White Whale Comics. I also have this kind of grand project idea where I want to do a State of the Union of comics, but I haven't exactly figured out what that is going to look like or how much work that's going to take in pre-planning yet. So keep an eye out for that, though. I'm going to do it eventually, but feel free to steal that idea and post your own State of the Union if you want to as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming in. I mean, I set a record for my live streams. I've never been to 21 or whatever it was, 22 live in my live streams before, so that was really cool. And it was just nice to have a whole bunch of people together talking about books for an evening. I mean, I can't believe that's what I got to do the last half an hour. That was a lot of fun. And thanks to Alec for this cool idea and for letting me host the first one. I feel very privileged for that, and I'm looking forward to next week. Did you have anything you want to say to end it off here?
Yeah, no, thanks for everyone for joining. I really appreciate everyone giving thumbs ups. It's great giving positive feedback. I really appreciate it because I had no idea how this was going to go, and it went really well. Had a lot of fun. Really appreciate you, John, for having faith in my idea and being on board from the get-go. And yeah, we'll have more to come. So thanks very much.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming around, and have a great night. And please leave a comment and like and let us know what you thought and this is all just starting off here. So you can be a part of this community activity and really give us your feedback, because we'd love to know what you're thinking. And then pick up Hexwives next week and meet us back here. Or I should say, meet us back at White Whale Comics apartment next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.